Yo. Welcome back to the Out the Box Show. I'm John Wallace alongside my co-host, James Luffy. Rory Luke is taking his leave of absence starting today from the Out the Box podcast. We're getting updates from Rory. Kind of a long labor session, right? I don't know if that's appropriate to talk about, but they everything's going well. Everything's going well. We are getting updates from Rory. We got our picks for the House Always Win segment coming in hot. But everything's well. So, hopefully by the time you're listening to this, we will have a baby as a podcast. John James will be walking around talking and losing half his paycheck on the Thursday night football game. So we'll see.
Yep. We're very excited.
Yes, could not be more excited to meet John James. Unfortunately, Rory did not allow us to go up to the hospital and cut the umbilical cord together
live on the podcast.
He said that he just didn't want us in the scrapbook, like he didn't want that to be the first page of the scrapbook.
Yes.
So there will be plenty of other chances for us to hang out with our podcast son, but we do miss you, Rory, and we can't wait to have you back and to meet John James. So we have a packed show for you guys. Cannot wait to get to it. LSU gets the dub in Tiger Stadium against Mississippi State and Mike Leach. Wow, it feels good. Feels really good to beat the Bulldogs. I know, James, you have a lot of friends over at Mississippi State and the state of Mississippi as a whole, and it just was a great feeling being in the stadium, getting that dub, right?
Yeah, it was a blast, and I mean, it felt good to win a game that means something, and it's been a while. It's been, since 19 really that we've won a game that's meant something, because this is, this first recruiting class coming up is extremely important. There's all kind of statistics on head coaches. Their first 3 recruiting classes are so important. And you want to show recruits and the country that we're going to be competitive, even though the roster might not be there yet. And this was an important win. And it was exciting. The stadium was fun. It was loud. And I thought this was the one thing that I said last week that I thought this was LSU's best shot is in the second half. State's going to be tired. They went to Arizona, played a 10 o'clock p.m. game, had to fly all the way back, then had another travel day to Baton Rouge. I think we weared on them and eventually just overtook them. And you kind of saw it with those last couple, last, I guess, 5 to 6 defensive possessions. We took over.
Yes. So Tigers get the dub. It was a great night in Tiger Stadium. The game was at 5 p.m., so everybody was able to get home early and make it to the Saints game on Sunday. Somehow I was there for the kickoff, but we're going to break it down. We're going to kind of take a look. Luffy has a probably a 20-minute preview on the New Mexico State, or is it New Mexico or New Mexico State? I don't even know.
I think it's New Mexico.
I couldn't even find New Mexico when I looked on a map. I couldn't even find New Mexico State, because New Mexico, that state is just not cool. Anyway, that was my attempt.
Your yell leader.
Yeah, that was my
impression.
That was your yell practice for this Tuesday as you're listening to this. But before we get to the rest of the show, I want to give a huge shout out to the Boot Crew Media Network. Boot Crew Media is everywhere. If you saw, make sure to follow Jack Collada on Instagram. He is in the Saints locker room interviewing Fournette and stuff. It's crazy that to see Boot Crew Media is up there with the big dogs with the mic and whatnot, asking questions to the players and all that. It's great content, and they do a great job over there. Shout out Jack. Make sure to follow Boot Crew Media on social media at Boot Crew Media, and on their website, bootcrewmedia.com. Chris Carterera ought to be putting out a fire recap of the Mississippi State game. I believe in his season preview, I believe he had LSU losing to Mississippi State. I might need to fact check that. But, Chris, I'm sorry if I'm wrong about that. Make sure to call me out on Twitter. I will be happy to admit that I was wrong. Also, want to give a huge shout-out to Blaine Loop with Keller Williams Realty. I don't have Rory with us this week to help me congratulate Blaine for getting engaged a while back, but congratulations to Blaine. And just like getting engaged to your lifelong partner, is one of the greatest things you'll ever do. Another one of the greatest things you'll ever do is get Blaine Loop to be your realtor. Blaine wants to be your friend, your neighbor, and your agent. Blaine has helped out so many of my friends to find the home of their dreams, to sell the old home of their dreams, to buy the new home of their dreams. Rental property, you need somebody to live there. You need yourself someplace to rent. Blaine does it all. Blaine will come to Baton Rouge. He'll help you out in New Orleans and the surrounding area. Make sure to give Blaine a call or a text at 504-858-0031 for all your housing needs. Blaine is the man. Keller Williams Unique Opportunity Housing Partner, each office independently owned and operated. Whew. All right. I know we are lacking one of our two color analysts for the LSU football season, but Luffy, I want to just go ahead and start off by asking your overall. You kind of mentioned it, like, and it actually meant something in Tiger Stadium, but going forward, like, how does this propel this LSU team? It could be like the mistakes that they made that they know that they need to correct heading into, say, going to Auburn in 2 weeks, Tennessee at home the following week, Florida, going to Florida after that. Like, how is the result of this game and what we learned from this game going to help us in those games going forward?
I mean, I think it just gives them confidence overall as a team. And I mean, it was Brian Kelly's first SEC game, which, I mean, it's great to get a win. That's your first one. You want to, come show you can play in this league and coach in this league. And offensively, we got to get better. Struggled there for most of the game, and that there's still that, the shuffling of the offensive line. We started 2 tackles. This is another, this is going forward. We started 2 tackles, Emory Jones, right tackle, Will Campbell, left tackle. Those guys are true freshmen. That's so rare. To have one starting on offensive line is rare, but to have them be both of your tackles. So I think you continue to build. Those 2 get better as the season goes along. Jaden Daniels is going to have to get better. As a whole, he's been electric with his feet. That our offense is his feet, so far. But they're going to have to keep progressing him and giving him and figuring out what he does best, throwing the ball, because he can't keep taking a beating like he has. But Neighbors, again, great game. And Josh Williams, I think we owe Josh Williams an apology. This podcast does. Not that we've said anything bad about him. Great kid, always comes to work, but just an undersized back for SEC. And he showed some power on the goal line. And he also ran over that state player on that one screen that they threw him. And then I don't know if you saw this. I saw this when I was rewatching the second half. That player who he ran over was like wobbling, trying to get up, and State picked the ball up. It wasn't a fumble, but like the ball was just, he dropped it after he was getting up and somebody thought it was a fumble. State guy picked it up, ran him over again. He got trucked twice on the play.
Good.
But Josh Williams, balled out that big touchdown run. Malik Neighbors continues to come up clutch. A lot of people wondering about Booty. Where has he been? I think you'll see him take a couple handoffs this week. That's my prediction.
I like that.
And I think you'll see him catch a couple screens early on, and they're going to try to, they got to, and it does seem at time that Daniels is trying to force it to him. That one, it was when we kicked the field goal to get to 10 points, and he had Neighbors wide open, and he tried to force it into to Booty, and Brian Kelly was not happy after that. So then there was a couple times where, Daniels had people, but he's going to have to continue to get more comfortable down the line and the offense. And I think that he will. It does seem like our only option right now. And he's tough though. The plays he makes with his feet, if he takes one step, he's gone. He's past everyone really. Linebackers can't catch him. Safeties and DBs can't catch him. He's that fast. And that's what he's elite at, and that's why he's the starting QB.
Yeah, and I think if you could just marry the two together, right? Like you go through this whole season, and even since the first game, our O-line is slowly getting better. They're figuring it out. They have made a few adjustments. Dellinger, losing the spot at center and whatnot, but I feel like it's just you got to chip away at it. You got to figure out what works, figure out what doesn't, and as Jaden Daniels gets more comfortable in the pocket, he is going to realize that he has more time than he thinks and to find that open guy. You're right, Lovey. There was a lot of times during the game on Saturday where, I was sitting in the corner of the end zone. Yes, I'm not an expert on running through quarterback possessions or offensive scheme and gameplay and whatnot. But the fact of the matter is that there were some receivers that were very open, and Jaden Daniels either didn't see him or had to get out of the pocket, or at least he thought he had to get out of the pocket and just run, right? The first game, I think, against Florida State, the thought of him coming off of that game was, if he didn't see his first option at receiver, he was out of there. Yeah. I think as he gets more comfortable, as Brian Kelly learns what he can and can't do with Jaden Daniels, learns like the in-game strengths and weaknesses and the decision-making, right? I think that will lead Jaden Daniels and LSU, especially the offensive line. They got to get more comfortable, but he's still the best option. You're right, Luffy. I don't get how you couldn't say that his feet haven't just taken over.
I mean, he has it's just, I think he ran for 100 yards. I mean, that's elite speed. There's not many better as far as running the ball with that type of quickness at the quarterback position. And yeah, this is another good week for us. I think having New Mexico this week's important. We've got to figure out what's going to work offensively before we go to Auburn. So that's going to be a 6:00 game. That's going to be a night game. It's going to be rocking in Jordan-Hare. Auburn struggled offensively too, but I think that I think that the offense will continue to get better. They're going to have to if we're going to compete with some of these teams. I mean, if you look at the schedule, Tennessee, Ole Miss, Alabama, Arkansas, teams with pretty good offenses there. So, Florida to be determined, I guess, on them. But overall, positive defensively. If you listen to this podcast, you were prepared for last week because the young man, Harold Perkins, was all over the field. 1.5 sacks, him and Ojulari. Ojulari also incredible. He was 18. He's what we need him to be every week. We've talked about this team's a little thin, and we need him to keep being that superstar. But we talked about Harold Perkins. I said they could play him in space. He could be a difference maker in this game. And he was. I mean, he was just all over the field. I think he had like 7 or 8 tackles, 1.5 sacks. He like slipped through the line of scrimmage, and whether he's on the edge or they run him up the middle, and he has a motor too. There was one play. He didn't even make this play, but I just noticed it rewatching the game. They threw like a little screen out, and Perkins was rushing. Like he got off his block, turned around, and was like going to go chase down the guy if he didn't get pushed out of bounds. Like he was right there to make the tackle. And it's like he's fast, he has elite speed. He's strong for a freshman, and he's going to be a freak. It's awesome seeing him wear that 40 because that obviously reminds you of Devin White right away. And he was great. Jay Ward was also great. He was somebody that we knew we'd have to rely on at the beginning of the season. They switched him down, playing closer to the line of scrimmage, and he was flying all around, had the big pick at the end. So those three guys definitely stood out to me defensively. And then Savion Jones had the strip sack fumble, but we did not recover it. I don't know if you recall that. But he is someone who's like starting to get better and better. And if he keeps playing with some confidence, he's going to be another guy that defensive line next year you're looking at for him to be a superstar because he's had the talent. And now it seems to he seems to be putting it together. Anybody else I miss?
No, I mean, I think you pretty much covered it. I mean, Ojulari and I believe who else was it? Were SEC defensive players of the week.
Jay Ward.
Yeah, Jay Ward. And I mean, that just shows it shows that we can actually compete with these teams. Like, I mean, anytime a team comes into Tiger Stadium and LSU's the underdog and you beat them in the way that you did, LSU scored 21 points in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
It shows the resiliency. It almost frustrates me a little bit too that I'm going to go back to this all year. Like if we'd have played like Southern the first week, I feel like we'd probably sneak out the win against Florida State. Yeah. We actually have this resiliency and this I'm not going to say magic because it's like, it's way too early to be using that word, but to be able to put together the fourth quarters that LSU's put together in the Florida State and the Mississippi State game leads me to believe that there's more of that to come. And there's always a chance. LSU is in every game, and like you said, Lovey, Matt House called a great game. I think it's just going to take some time with the cohesion with our offensive line. If Jaden Daniels can get that passing, and he doesn't have to be great at passing, but you find the check down. Also, we forgot to mention, I want to mention John Emery. I predicted a big game for John Emery this week just because of the chaos and whatnot. I was slightly let down, but at the same time, when you're rooting for a surprise, you can't really be let down with that. 11 carries, 32 yards. I think that was just him getting back into the swing of things. I think he will be used in a little bit more active role. I think he will be. They got to figure out his strengths, right? First, they had to knock the rust off. I think this weekend's a great weekend for him to have a big game against New Mexico and really knock the rust off and get back for Auburn.
Yeah, and Micah, again, was great on defense, flying all around the field. It's something interesting. He was supposed to be suspended for 2 games, right? So those guys were not getting. That's why he wasn't getting first team reps in practice when we went to practice that day. They were bringing him along. Like Kelly said, the same thing that they had to do with some of the other guys. Emery suspended. He was running with the third team or the second team when we were in practice that day. It's like we're getting these guys back because they weren't even running with the team, and the cohesiveness of the defense is so important. But hopefully as those guys even progress on, and we still get Joe Fouché back after this game, because I believe it's a 4-game suspension. So you hope the defense can almost keep getting better with a couple guys that we didn't know that we'd have, and they're still working their way into the lineup. Because and Matt House did a great job, really. The scheme was good. We were in man, we were in zone. They're doing a good job teaching it. Like we haven't had that many communication errors. We have had some penalties that we do need to clean up overall. And it's a young team. That's going to happen, but some of it's not been on young players. But the defense, the way they've communicated it, I mean, with the last 2 years, the coverage breakdowns, I know that was something John would always beg me and ask me before the season. We can't have that again. He said that last year.
How do we get burned over the top? I just couldn't. It kept me up at night.
And that's not really State's defense. They'll usually take like a shot a game, but the communication on the back end seems pretty good. And the move Greg Brooks back to safety and switched him with Ward this week, and that it paid dividends. It paid dividends right away on the communication side. So, and they had some big drops and some things not to go their way, but we did as well. So,
I mean, dude, we held Mississippi State, who's averaging 44.5 points a game, albeit one was to Arizona and the other was to I forget who, Memphis in week 1. I mean, we held them to 16 points. They're known for the air raid offense. Mike Leach is supposed to be this air raid expert. So all that to say, great win in Tiger Stadium. We were talking a little bit before this. The 5 o'clock game was kind of clutch because I was able to get home about 9:30 and get well rested up to go watch the Saints lose to the Bucks. So, but that'll be for another podcast as we kind of clean up this past weekend. Lovey, do you want to tell us about Martine and Workbox? Martine was at the tailgate on Saturday.
Martine is a tailgating goon. He loves being out there, but you think he won't pick up his phone while he's out tailgating? Wrong. He will. Martine is always ready to get you a portable office, a portable toilet. They have the luxury restroom rentals. They have roll-off dumpsters if you're building a house or redoing a home. They have storage containers, portable office, porta potties, luxury restroom rentals, roll-off dumpsters. Call Martina Workbox 225-343-4886. The porta potties are much better than the ones that you've been using on game day and seeing. They are we won't mention that brand, but John can guarantee that these porta potties are the cleanest in the business.
I didn't even use them. I just held it.
Yep,
all
me
day.
too.
I get out there
until I got to the stadium.
I got out there very early, and I refused.
Yep.
I mean, it's not worth it to me. It's not worth my time or my bladder. to waste energy doing that. So
if you need a good one, a clean one, you call Workbox. You call Martina Workbox. It's 225-343-4886.
yes. Okay. So I don't think it would be very beneficial to sit here and break down New Mexico's powerful scheme, right? They're not. This is going to be a win for LSU. What I do want to talk about, and kind of we've already mentioned, is what we would like to see as this LSU football team grows under Brian Kelly.
Yeah, I mean, I think less pre-snap penalties is one thing that I would go with on a week like this, while it's going to be a quieter environment because they're going to a very loud place in Jordan-Hare. And I was looking at tickets for that game today, just curiously, like, are they going to be expensive? That place is going to be packed out.
You're talking about at
Auburn.
So
I'll talk a little bit about New Mexico State, but I'm saying this week that's what we need to clean up before we have to go to Auburn.
I'm very glad that we get a team that we're going to beat in Tiger Stadium, clean everything up, and it's almost like a tune-up for Auburn, we wouldn't normally have.
I'll talk about New Mexico for about a minute, maybe not even that. They're kind of rebuilding. The offense, I think, is not great. The defense a little better. Brian Kelly, he talked about them some today in his press conference, and I think he knows the coach or has coached against him, and he knows that he's got to motivate his team this week too, which I think is the hardest part about these games. But I feel like we should be a team motivated. I mean, I want to see Neighbors go off. I want to see Booty go off. I want the confidence to rise. I want to see Mason Taylor catch a touchdown.
Kayshawn needs a 100-yard, 2-touchdown game. That's what he needs right at this point. Although it would be to New Mexico, he's got to get it in his head that he's good enough to do that. And Jaden Daniels, I don't care if Jaden Daniels takes 10 sacks this game. I want to see Jaden Daniels sit in the pocket, sit back, and maybe take a few. And worst case scenario, throw it away. I want to see Jaden Daniels, some of the best quarterbacks in the game, know when to throw it away, right? Jaden Daniels has two options. It's either his first receiver or get the hell out of there, and more often than not, but get the first down. Yeah. That's the things that are on his mind. So I'd like to see him spread the ball out, find his receivers, locate them, sit back, even if it's a little scary. Yeah. I know it is. I can't imagine having those big dudes running after me as quarterback, especially being Jaden Daniels' size. Yeah,
just go out, win the game, get your backups in, and let's stay healthy. I think that's also maybe the biggest thing. Let's stay healthy.
I like that.
This team has some good players, but it's thin. And we already lost maybe, the best player on the team. So we got to stay healthy. That's keys to getting your over.
About that.
So
I forgot about that. But okay. So we will do a much more in-depth breakdown of Auburn next week. Shout out to all the people who came by the tailgate this past weekend. It was probably one of the more packed tailgates that we've ever done. It was a great weather. It was a little bit hotter than I would have liked, but it was an all-around great day. Probably, unless I get some strong convincing, going to take off this weekend of doing a tailgate. Hopefully, we'll go to Auburn the following week. If Tennessee's a night game, we'll see about that, and then Florida. But we cannot thank y'all enough for coming out and saying what's up. It really is cool to see everybody and see people who you wouldn't even think listen to the podcast. So it's a really cool feeling, and we really appreciate it. But I won't start crying right now. Let's get to the famous House Always Wins segment. I think this might be the quickest we've ever made it to the House Always Wins segment. Turn your mic on.
And if you enjoyed the tailgate, text John, thank him, please.
That's what I need.
He puts a lot of work in.
Affirmations.
He really does, though. So if you like coming to the tailgates, tell John thank you.
All right, let's get to the famous House Always Win segment presented by the House Bar in Tigerland. Shout out to the House Bar in Tigerland. Jeff and Casey over at the House Bar in Tigerland. Their favorite time of year is football season. I know both of them very well, and I know that their favorite sport is football. And what better time to go over to the House Bar in Tigerland during, before, or after an LSU football game. You can head over there this weekend. I think you can get your wristbands early. They run all kind of deals, drink deals, maybe even some pizza deals. I don't know. I bet they're slinging the pizzas during football season because everybody after the game needs to eat so that they can keep drinking, especially since I believe the bars stay open a little bit later now. I know they were talking about that, but I don't know if that's an actual thing. But you can find out if you don't have a phone and you have no access to the internet. You can find out by just going to the bar and seeing if they stay open past 2. So shout out to the House Bar in Tigerland. Also shout out Jeff. We're going to plug his other business venture, Crumble Cookies,
Right.
in Lafayette,
Laffy.
I believe it's off of Khalees
Ooh, I
Saloon
would have no clue.
Road and Ambassador Caffrey. I don't know. We'll confirm that for the next episode. But shout out to the guys over at the House Bar in Tigerland. They help us out with tailgating year in and year out. And we could not be more thankful to
Shout
them.
out Jeff.
Also, shout out to DraftKings. Make sure to enter promo code BOOT. That's BOOT. Get $200 in free bets. DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of the NFL. That's the only app that I use. Make sure to download
I'm on it right now. Checking my picks.
Sportsbook app today. 21 plus restrictions apply. See show notes for details. How about that? Locking it in.
We're live.
Locking it in. All right. Luffy, we'll give a quick recap. We did text Rory, and he is not answering. He was texting a little bit earlier.
Baby
so
could be. John James could be coming. I knew he was going to come down during the podcast. I told John earlier. I said he's going to come during the podcast.
Dude, I didn't even think about that. That's insane.
Yeah.
Like, things are getting really real.
Wait, I didn't tell you that yet. I thought about that on the way over here. I was like, if he hasn't had the baby yet, it could come during the podcast. Should we just keep going and just be
until we get the text?
Until we see like the pictures on Facebook?
Well, what if we just
we live stream for like 24 hours like we're like teenagers?
Like what if the baby, like as soon as it takes its first breath, me and you were just like sit up straight in our chair and we're like, I think something just happened with the baby. I think
he is named after us.
It is kind of funny how things are getting really real for Rory today, and me and you. shout out you.
We just crush him wings.
Just grilled up some chicken wings, and we're watching Monday Night Football and recording a podcast. And Rory's doing one of the coolest things you can do in life. So,
yeah.
All that to say, though, Rory's picks last week. Rory went 1-1. He had Miami plus 5.5 against Texas A&M. Unfortunately, the Yale practice leader, Cool Guys, covered that. I think the final score was 17-9. If you didn't see it, they had another Yale practice video, and it might have been worse than the previous one. I watched that late at night last night. Somebody had sent it to me. Wow, I am staunchly rooting for them to lose every game for the rest of eternity after seeing that. And Rory was big on the Chargers Chiefs under 54.5. He did a lot of research, made a lot of stats, and we sweated it out last.
I thought that was your pick, John. I was thinking all day it was your pick.
No, that was Rory, dude. He gave the stats.
Yeah, I know.
It was like 17-9 or something. Like he said, just do it and don't think.
You know why I couldn't find it? Because I thought you said it, and when I was looking for the clip, I was looking of you talking, and I was like, why can't I find the stat? I was gonna clip it, but.
Yes, so Rory went 1-1. Rory was on a little heater. I think he was undefeated until this past weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So
what are we overall, John?
All right, give me a second. I'll tally.
Unless there's head-to-heads, like if there's a head-to-head, take that off, obviously.
5, 6, 7. We are 7-7.
Ooh, that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Honestly,
none of that's going head to head, right?
Wait, actually, so me and you took Bama minus 20 last week, so that's technically 7-6.
Yeah,
because we both agreed on that. But dude, honestly, I tell people this all the time, and I think most gamblers would agree. Like, if you go 50-50, I would take that every single day.
No,
of the week.
I'm really interested to see if we can go over 50% in one of them. We won't. I don't think we're going to get over 50%.
Wait. No, I had it wrong.
John,
we are 8.
We don't need to take your engineering license.
We're 8, 5, 6, 7, 8. We are 8-7. 8. Wait, what?
All right, you take a minute to
can't-
count that
I
up.
can't get this right.
We got to get this right.
Go
I'll
ahead.
do my picks while you go.
Yes, please.
All right, so I went 1-1 last week. We're not going to talk about the Colts pick. Disavow that one, but we did cover in the Gabe Fertitta revenge game. Him going back to Louisville at Florida State. But this week I'm going with Florida. It's at Tennessee. Tennessee's offense is really good. This game scares me, but if I don't take Florida plus 11 and it's like a 3-point game, I'm going to be mad at myself. And then Steelers, I'm going to take the Steelers plus 5 in Cleveland. Steelers are a scrappy team. I'll take Mike Tomlin, with 5 or 6 points any day. I think it'll move to like 6, but it's at 5 right now on this app. I wish I had 6, but I'll take the Steelers at the Browns.
All right. Steelers at Browns.
And my other pick is Florida plus 11 at Tennessee. I think Tennessee could end up, their offense is much better, but I don't know. I think that the Florida is just a scrappy game, classic rival game, and big game for Napier and Florida. So Rory's gonna dislike this Florida pick.
No, I actually really do like. It's at Tennessee.
Yes, which does worry me because it's gonna be 110,000 people in there. So
slightly. Yeah, as I said, whenever I was picking my college picks, I'm going against A&M. I'm taking the Arkansas money line this weekend. I mean that I cannot. I don't know, man. It's so hard. It's so much harder. Like Jimbo made enough of a scene last year, and the whole Max Johnson thing. It rubs me the wrong way, and I just they're slowly becoming, since Bama is no longer the team that I just can't stand anymore because I've accepted that they're just that much better than us. I'm going to take Arkansas money line.
John, but give yourself the points for record keeping purposes.
But it's 2.5.
Yeah, but give yourself the points. What if something happens? I do think Arkansas will win this game, though. I agree with you on that. So maybe that's a bad thing. But
yeah, but I hate Arkansas 2.5 because there is nothing that would make me more mad than if A&M won by 3. Like that, I would rather.
What's it at though? If you can keep it under minus 120, that's like the most juice we can take.
But okay, you're right. We'll go against the spread because that's what we do. But I'm taking the money line as well.
That's for record keeping. If you get the money line, then we'll give you that joy of the money line. I'm not gonna take your joy from the money line. I'm just saying for record keeping.
Maybe I'll be able to buy more people some drinks on Bourbon Street, like I wasn't able to do after the Florida State.
All right, I found 5.5 for Pittsburgh, so I'm taking 5.5.
Okay, Pittsburgh 5.5. Is this where I do it? All right, yep, this is where I do it. Bengals minus 4.5 against the Jets.
We just talked about this before the show, actually, and I liked it too. As soon as I saw it, I was like, because I thought it was going to be more. I thought it was going to be.
I mean, dude, Joe Burrow's not after making it to the Super Bowl. I don't care.
I thought it was going to be 6.5. Like that's or 6.
Dude, the
but
Jets,
not 4.
It's the Jets. I know it's at the Jets.
They didn't win last week. But.
Yeah, I ain't buying it. I think the Cowboys kind of played up. Let's talk about the Bengals for a second. Just a second. I think the Cowboys kind of played up. I think Cooper Rush stepped up into the spotlight. The game was in Dallas, I believe, right, James?
Yes, it was in Dallas.
So I think the Super Bowl curse, although the Bengals didn't win last year, I still think they're kind of coming off of that. I think if you think for a second that and it's Joe Burrow.
I mean, yeah. I have some thoughts on the Bengals. I don't think their roster is elite, but I think there's really good players that can hopefully carry them to a solid season.
Well, Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow count for how many players, average players, would you say they count for?
They count for like 8 average players,
All right,
which is a lot.
I'm in on that. Thank you guys so much for listening. Like I said, things must be getting very real for Rory right about now.
Yeah.
So we will suspend him.
We're gonna let you know too if the baby was born. Like I'm watching the time we finish this, and I'm gonna write it down. So when we get the baby's time of birth, and John, I'm gonna stretch this out to the last second now. But if we can get the baby's date, time of birth, which we will get, and it happened while we were recording the podcast, and that's a good sign for young John James.
I just keep refreshing my text. Should I FaceTime him right now?
No, it's not.
Thank you guys so much for listening. Shout out to the House Bar in Tigerland, Workbox LLC, Blaine Loop with Keller Williams Realty, DraftKings, and the Boot Crew Media Network. As we said at the top, thank you guys so much for coming out to the tailgate. We'll let y'all know we're doing one again, and I think we're like we've kind of already said it, but this episode is dedicated to John James Luke. So shout out John James Luke. You're gonna have a fantastic life, and you have wonderful parents. Let's go.